How does a high-level real estate broker add notes to his business? Stay tuned. Welcome to this week's edition of Note School TV. Yes, episode number 227, and we are happy to have you today. We have an amazing guest, as we always do, and we'll bring him on in just about 1 minute. Before we do, let's do a couple of things here. Some housekeeping. Number one, make sure and hit that like button. Yep, go ahead and do that. I know we always forget to. I do the same thing, but hit that like button. And then if you have questions, please send them in to us. Had some great questions from last episode. Really good questions. So appreciate that. And then if you have not already subscribed to the Note School TV channel, please do that as well. And then number three, hit that bell notification. Bing. Yes, hit it so that you will be notified right before we go live every Wednesday at 11:05 Central Time. If you would like to know more about what we do at Note School, just simply go to noteschool.com/TV. Again, noteschool.com/TV. And with that, I want to bring on, founder of Note School, Chief Visionary Officer, my friend, Mr. Eddie Speed.
Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. It is a wonderful morning.
Yes, sir. This is a fun time to be in the market.
It is.
Yes. And I think the interview we have today is a reflection of that, because we're solving a real estate problem, right? In more than one way, but we're solving a real estate problem that the industry needs solved.
Yes.
And so we now have a lot of people coming to us. And one of the areas that we are seeing a lot of are people that are real estate brokers. They list and sell property. And our guest today is a very sophisticated realtor in a specialty business,
yes,
a farm and ranch.
He is.
In fact, the firm that he's with is the largest brokerage in the United States for this. And fact is, they represented a ranch transaction this year that a lot of our audience may have heard about.
Yeah, right.
They represented Taylor Sheridan and brokered to him. They were representing him in the 4 Sixes Ranch acquisition.
Yeah, that's a small acquisition.
Cool, huh? And anyway, I really think that this is going to be enlightening, and we're just going to talk to Johnny about really his vision, like what he saw and why he thought it was so important to add notes to his business. And I will say that I think most realtors haven't had a lot of interest in seller financing, but I think that day is changing a lot.
Momentum is changing back our way,
and so we're pretty amped up about that. So I'm
going to drop off really here.
Fun. Okay,
so you can bring on Johnny. Have a great interview, and I'll see you guys on the backside.
You're awesome. Thank you. So our guest today is a long friend of mine. I knew him in the early 2000s, knew him very well, he and his family. And we had him on Note School TV, he and his daughter, not long ago. But we made this episode really about the application of his business and how he added seller financing and buying notes to his business and saw the value in that. And I think you'll really enjoy this. And I bet you might know somebody that you would want to forward this to as well. So you guys welcome my friend, Mr. Johnny Horton.
Good morning, Eddie.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. Good. And you?
I'm really good. Johnny, we want to kind of pull this story together as quick as we can. And of course, you and I knew each other in the early 2000s, and so have enjoyed to re-meet your family and your wonderful folks. I wanted to really start out by saying, Johnny, I've always seen you as a visionary. I've always seen you as somebody that had some clarity in an area, and boom, you're willing to act on it. So I want to talk about, like, you're adding this whole Note School thing and how you really saw that changing the trajectory of both your brokerage business as well as your personal business?
Yeah, it's like you said, we met over 20 years ago. I went through your note school. We did some note business for a while, kind of got away from it. We got back reconnected. I saw some things that I didn't see 20 years ago. You had a little more saddle time and had changed some things up, had added some things, and much more user-friendly kind of a company, I guess, is the way I saw it. They say that you have to do a thing 10,000 times before you're an expert at it. Whether that's, you shoot an arrow, your 10,000th shot is going to become much more likely to hit the center target than that first shot. And I know word on the street, Eddie, is that you've done over 50,000 notes. I think that kind of makes you an expert, and I respect what you've done. I look up to you, and I'm glad to be back involved with you. I saw a couple of things when I came back. First of all, I saw an opportunity to tie this into my existing business in a couple of different ways. First of all, I believed I could improve my brokerage by offering a creative financing tool that could possibly help my agents help their clients to move their property more quickly or for more money or for both. And that was important, something that we pride ourselves on differentiating our brokerages from the rest of the world with United Country. And so I saw a tool there that would further differentiate us. Secondly, I saw some wealth strategies that were just amazing, blew me away. In today's market, those strategies offer an opportunity to make a lot more sense and potentially a lot more money than most strategies that are out there today. When you told me that in today's market, you could make maybe 2 to 3 times more money by owning a note than by owning a rental property, a little hard to believe, but you showed me the numbers, and numbers don't lie. So I became a believer. The other thing that was really important to me and what I saw was the ability to create wealth through notes and the opportunity to create a family legacy in a very short period of time. And my family is really important to me. They're all excited about this and seeing what we're starting to do. So wanted to have this conversation with you today because I have a vision, and, I'd love to share that vision with some of my friends and colleagues in the real estate world. I wanted to ask you a question this morning. This is your podcast, but I want to ask you a question. Eddie, what do you have? How would your system and your tools differentiate a real estate agent and help that agent or broker create a stronger business and maybe more wealth?
Well, I think really the whole idea of seller financing, I think for the most part, the real estate brokerage community has never really considered that. Like, it's not ever been on the page, right? Now, I started in 1980 in the business. So there was a lot of seller financing created in 1980 because of super high interest rates, right? But we've seen a big gap in financing today. And I think seller financing, the thing about seller financing is the first thing I think people have to understand is seller financing is lending. And so what we would want to do is work with a real estate brokerage and show them good practices, best practices for lending. I tell people there's 100,000 seller finance notes created every year, and I only want to work on the top 10 or 15%. I don't want to work on every seller finance note out there because not all of them are written with the same level of discipline. But it could be done where you had an underwriting box, a standard, and you could even hire a third-party underwriter to go do that and evaluate certain things, because the broker would say, well, I'm not a loan underwriter, and the seller might say, I'm not a loan underwriter. Hey, I know a loan underwriter, and it wouldn't be me personally, but we would connect the dots for them to do that and have it closed with the right level documentation. And just think of it, Johnny, it's almost like now you're taking seller financing, but now you're pasting mortgage banking over the top of it. And that type of seller financing, I can tell you from 45 years in this business, that paper's sticky. It'll pay, right? And so then all of a sudden, your seller, your client, now they've got two options. So first of all, I'm a note buyer, and I'd love to be able to buy their note or part of their note or whatever makes sense. And all those things are possible. But more importantly, maybe they just want an annuity. Maybe you got a client that has a piece of land and the land's not producing much money. And now all of a sudden they could then have an annuity because of that land and have a note that pays them, monthly or whatever structure that they want. And all of a sudden now they've created a cash cow out of it. And so there's an option they could sell, we could structure the deal and they could sell some income on the note and keep some of the income on a note. There's different ways. If we kind of knew what the client was trying to figure out, we could help build that through you guys to do that. So I think seller financing is overlooked because most people kind of think it's substandard. And that, Johnny, that is a myth. Seller financing can be just as tight as conventional lending, but have flexibility so that maybe all of a sudden you got a lender that doesn't quite want to do what you need or your client needs or the buyer needs. And now all of a sudden there's a way to make that work. And so I think there's a lot of creativity. I have bought 50,000 notes, and as the old insurance advertising go, I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two. And so I think we could really help a client in that regard. And then, Johnny, I think the big thing is going to relate to how somebody like you, because the one thing I hear about the brokerage business, and I've trained a whole lot of real estate brokers at this point, is that they don't like their retirement strategy, right? And so there are, I will say this. Yes, I believe it is a truth that there is more profit in a note transaction today than there is in traditional rental property. Way less headaches, we'll agree on that. But I believe there's truly more profit in it. There is a lot more income, and we can model that out and show people why that we believe that's a truth. And the other thing about it is people just are beyond kind of understanding financial modeling that, Johnny, we've become pretty good at, and you're becoming good at it again.
Yeah, it's been it's been fun getting back into the note business and seeing the flexibility and the opportunities. One of the things that I had kind of forgotten about in the note industry is the fact that not only can you create cash flow, but if a seller decides they want to sell on owner financing, and they're happy with some cash flow, but they need some cash up front, there's even a way to do that, yes. Eddie. And I just love the fact that, if you buy a note, you may not buy the whole note. You may just buy part of it. Isn't that kind of right?
That's it. That's exactly right. And once again, it's almost like it's your chalk and your chalkboard. You tell me what you're trying to accomplish, and we design a note transaction that kind of fits that story. And we use the school because it's the best way. We've made it in a very efficient way for people to go learn what to do, right? And we love doing case studies because case studies become memorable. It's not just theory. It's like, okay, what was this case study and what did it accomplish? And what did it accomplish for the people that own the note? And what did it accomplish for the people that got the financing? So it's a really big thing that I think today, there's no confusion out there. There's an issue in lending that is just not the same that it was. Rates and underwriting. And for those reasons, if you had the latitude of being the bank yourself, well, then all of a sudden you could create an opportunity. And I think for the brokerage, you and I've discussed this, real estate brokers are very good at what they're trained at. they're not so good at what they're not trained at. And I'm just simply adding seller finance strategies and training around that so that they can be as good at that as they are the other things that they're so amazing at.
I think it's, as we look at the industry today with the lending in the market that we're in, I mean, I see reports where there's maybe as many as 250,000 loans out there that are struggling right now, and that puts some banks in a little bit of a precarious situation, and makes the seller financing deal look pretty attractive in some cases.
Well, this stat is true for residential lending. It's not necessarily for land.
Right.
But I think this truth is going to bleed over into a lot of your clients' financing as well.
Yeah.
The Mortgage Bankers Association generates a mortgage credit availability index. It's an index that they built. And when the virus started in 2020, that index was at 185. Today, that index, Johnny, is at 95.
Wow.
That's how tight underwriting is.
That's big. That's big.
So it says that there's a lot of people that are left behind that are good people and can pay their bills, and that seller financing gives them a chance of ownership, property ownership, in a way that maybe the conventional market doesn't. And there's all kind of different combinations that somebody can learn to do. So the one last thing I would just emphasize is this, Johnny. When I tell you that you could take $1,000 invested with your self-directed retirement account or your grandkids' Coverdell educational account, and you could take that $1,000 investment and buy a note and sell the front end of the note with only $1,000 left in the investment, and it could turn into $100,000 in income. Is that a myth or is that true?
That's true, and that's exciting. That's exciting. The return on that is sometimes gets even difficult to figure out what it is.
Well, the point is you have kind of a dual purpose in learning about notes, and that is not only do you do it for your clients and for your business, but you also do it personally. And it's fairly unlikely when we spend a little time with somebody and show them what's possible with investing in notes that somebody goes, "Nah, I'm not interested in that." I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's highly unlikely, right?
Yeah, I would say so. And there's so many different avenues within the note world. It's just like real estate. I mean, what does real estate mean? Well, there's 1,000 different ways you can profit from real estate. It's the same in the owner finance note world too. So I just appreciate the opportunity to be a part of your world again and be a follower of Eddie Speed.
Well, let's do this. I want to bring Joe back in because Joe has a good spot. He gets to listen to these interviews sometimes, and sometimes I like to just bring him in and say, "Joe, of what we've talked about, like what do we open up more? What do we emphasize more?" Because I'm fine. Johnny. I did a podcast yesterday, right, with a real estate broker that he does houses. He doesn't do land. And I'm telling you, that guy, by the time I finished that podcast, he was about to jump out of his skin. And really, and so he has a whole bunch. He trains realtors, and he said he was talking about how the realtors were really having to hustle now, and how much harder they were having to hustle. I said, what if you knew how to go to landlords and legitimately could show them a very tactical, disciplined strategy to seller finance their rental and earn 2 or 3 times the income they're earning right now? I said, wouldn't the broker have like magic dust?
Absolutely.
Well, Johnny, we were talking the other day, and I'd thrown out a stat there, and then you had thrown out a stat, and the first one was 71% of the realtors that are part of National Association of Realtors has the realtor designation. 71% didn't sell a house in 2024. And then you talked about, your experience and with some of your brokers. And, it's a very high probability when you've got that as well as the banks and this credit availability. That is a real thing. And what we do is an alternative to having to go down and sit with the banker, right, to borrow money to do something.
Yeah, and again, that's one of the things that I'm excited about here is the, we again pride ourselves at United Country Real Estate on being different from the rest of the world. Yeah. And Mike Duffy, the president of the company, he and Eddie and I have talked some, and Mike's very on board with what Eddie's doing. And he sees it just like I do as another tool that could differentiate our agents from other agents out there. And if you go out there on that listing appointment, we try to arm our agents with more and better ammunition than anyone else can take to the field with them, and giving them another bullet to carry with them. That's important. That's big stuff. So.
Well, and I think once again, seller financing kind of gets somewhat disregarded because we look at it like as the lender of last resort. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't be looked at in that way. And listen, why do you think I would want to help somebody make a note if I'm going to buy the note and it's written in a substandard way? That wouldn't make any sense for me as a note buyer.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things I've noticed in looking through some of the notes that you've been offering is those buyers on those notes, a lot of them could go to the bank and borrow money.
Yeah.
So it's not 400 credit buyers and $250 down. So,
well, here's the thing about it, Johnny. People look at the lending industry and their production's way off. And I think everybody knows that. It's like way off, like 70% off. Yeah. Right. And people think it's all because of rates. It's not. And the reality is, I believe if you really dug to the core of it, it's as much about underwriting as it is rates. Yeah. And so I say that just because the mortgage company says you're not perfect doesn't mean you're not perfect enough for us. Meaning that there's some common sense application to this, that sometimes the mortgage banking world can do whatever they want to do. It's their business and they're big boys, and we don't need to tell them what to do. But once again, we can look at it and say there's a lot of deserving people that may get left behind, that seller financing would be a great strategy for. And on the other side, the guy that's carrying the paper, he's never thought about having something so easy. You know what I mean? Like, really, I just own a note and have a servicer service it, and they just wire the money to me every month. The plumber's not going to call me and tell me what we're going to have to spend to redo the plumbing and all that.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
And Johnny, for your guys, that are with United, it just gives them the opportunity, because when you're working we're all right here, we're all self-employed, right? We're all 1099 or whatever it is, right? We're contractors. And that's one of the biggest categories. Self-employed is about 4 out of 10 people today. Gig workers, all of these folks. And they're good people. They make great money. They have great credit. They pay their bills. It's just so difficult in today's environment to go to a bank. And this is where this falls right into place. And I-10 borrowers, right? Individual tax identification number borrowers as well. So it's a boon really for any business that's out there that's in this space.
I think it sure has some huge applications from the standpoint of a real estate brokerage. So I'm excited.
Well,
we are too.
We've talked a lot about your specialization, the farm and ranch side. And of course, I think the audience maybe knows this about me, but I would have said I was first a cowboy long before I was a note guy. And So I have a heart for that, and I bought and sold a lot of land along the way, and used seller financing to do that. And so I love that side of the business, and I'm excited to work with your group, and you're very generous to introduce me to Mike Duffy, the president of your company, and really just getting a real sense of like how that could apply like all across the brokerages is pretty exciting for me.
It is.
Yeah. Eddie, and I remember back 20 years ago, and the thing that really impressed me about you in the beginning was not anything, had nothing to do with owner finance notes. It was the fact that you could jerk a knot in a rope. So,
I can still do that, Johnny. I can still do that.
Very good.
Johnny, we are really glad to have you back on Note School TV. And I think just today sharing with the audience more specifically how seller financing is solving a real estate problem that the industry is not really considered a good solution for, particularly in the brokerage world, I think is dynamic. And secondly, you and a whole bunch of other real estate folks that are brokers selling traditional real estate have used now notes for your retirement and wealth building strategy. Because listen, you're already comfortable with real estate, right? And it lets you focus on your business because you don't have to go work every Saturday being a landlord or whatever that looks like, right?
Yeah, for sure. And Johnny, the cool thing is it's not just, the land part of this, it's houses, it's land is a huge part of it. It's commercial buildings, it's, office buildings and all of the whole thing, which tends to not be as many lenders out there. So this is just
and we're a part of all of those classes of real estate. We focus on land, but we do a lot of commercial. We have agents in our organization, over almost 5,000 agents, and some of them are strictly residential. Some of them, all they want to sell is vineyards and wineries. We focus on specialty properties, and so. Yeah, it has a lot of application within our group.
That's awesome. Johnny, we are so glad to have you today. And I think your vision has had a great value to the audience. And it certainly helps us with clarity when we get to hear your vision, how you see it applied, and the note space applied in your world. So thank you for that. Joe, I'm gonna let you close us out, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Johnny, for being with us today. Love you guys and your family and your whole business model. Hey guys, that wraps us up for this week. We appreciate you being here. Next week it is our monthly update. Yep, it's already the end of February, so we're 2 months in. So we'll see you for the monthly update next week. Appreciate it. Talk to you later and have a great week.